afternoon. I got it right today. Um, so today I brought up all that stuff yesterday about my kid's father because there's a couple situations that um, connect me spiritually to him. Um, Let me back up a second and say I don't have some kind of crazy salvation story where, I can say, you know, something crazy happened, like someone had a gun in my head and I got this, like, Jesus, are you real situation. For me, I was raised in the church. Um, I was raised growing up, I was in church every Sunday most of my life. That's just how my life was. Um, but I didn't, like I shared before, come to personally know Jesus until I was older. Um, I was 12 when he made it clear to me that he um, was real, but I didn't really, really, really get involved in that life, like on my own accord, by my own choices, until I was in my 20s. Um, that doesn't mean that God didn't have a relationship with me. It just means I didn't have a relationship with him. Um, as a kid, I remember one time I was 12, I think. I think it was 12. Yeah, I was 12. And I don't know, my mom and dad were in the middle of a separation, and my mom was going to go out that night and party with some friends. And I remember feeling like there was just something, I don't know how to explain it, but something came on me like, your mom can't leave the house. Stop her. I was 12. I wasn't like a little kid or anything, but I begged my mom to stay and not go out. I pleaded, I begged, I cried, I threw myself on the floor. I remember wrapping my arms and legs around her legs as she's trying to walk to the door. I'm like holding on for dear life, like, no, you can't leave. And begging her, and she kept going, why? Like, what is the big deal? And I was just like, something's not right. It's not right. You're going to leave and something bad's going to happen. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm going out. I'll be back later. And I was like, no. And I mean, I freaked. And I didn't understand what I was feeling. But every fiber of my being was like, she cannot leave the house no matter what. You have to do everything you can to stop her. So at 12, I mean, I was wrapped around her arms and legs and pulling on her down, trying to keep her with me. And my mom was dragging me to the door, and I'm holding on for dear life. And she kicked me off of her, like, get off me, and pushed me off of her, and she left the house. And the next morning I woke up, and I went running to her room, and she wasn't there. And I freaked. I went back into the living room, like trying to find any adult. I'm only 12, right? So I go back in to find some adult, and there was a babysitter there still from the night before. And I'm like, where's my mom? And she was like, yeah, that's a good question. I'm wondering the same thing. And I mean, we didn't really have answers or know what happened. Come to find out, my mom got drunk, and she drove her car off of a freeway and into somebody's like yard and like almost in their house, and totaled the car. Um, and something in me was like, you knew. So that was like this instinct that I just needed to learn. I didn't know how to gauge it. I didn't know what it was. I just knew it was like something that I needed to pay attention to. Not even a year later, another incident happened with my cousin. And I was at my grandma's house that night, and I remember waking up in the morning and just telling him, you can't leave the house today. And he said, well, I'm going to go across the street and hang out with my friends. I said, that's fine. You can go to your friend's house across the street, but promise me you will not leave this block. Like, do not leave our block for any reason whatsoever. And he's like, oh my God, like, you're tripping. And I was like, no, I'm not going to go to school if you're going to go. Like, promise me you're going to not leave this block. And I begged him and pleaded and begged him and pleaded. And I mean, cried again and made him like, I was in his face, like, promise me you won't leave the block. And finally he's like, okay, 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 promise. So I finally, whatever, got up and I went to school, and I remember being in fifth period, and I remember it was at PE, and I saw my mom and grandma walking to the office from the parking lot. And I instantly knew something had happened. And I was just waiting. And they called me down to the office, and I was like, what did Robert do? I knew. And they said he was in a really bad car accident, and he broke his back. They had to go to Santa Teresita to the hospital, and they had him strapped to a board. And I mean, it's crazy because he says that when they pulled him out of the car, like his friends and stuff, everybody got him out of the car, and there was a lady in the house that in front of where the accident happened. I guess they had a parked car or something, and he was in the back seat and just snapped his back in half like that. So, the lady, it was like a cleaning lady or something for the house. It was in Upper Hills in Monrovia, and she came out of the house and she said, God's trying to tell you something. Like, are you going to pay attention? Because he's trying to talk to you and you're not listening to him. And like, she scolded him. And it's funny because like I begged him that morning. Now I again didn't have a personal relationship with God. I mean, I knew who God was, but it wasn't like a personal relationship. So when that happened, I didn't have the right words to give him. I just knew he couldn't leave. He shouldn't leave the block, and I warned him, and he didn't listen. And they say out of the mouths of babes, right? As I got older, I learned and began to have a relationship with Christ. I learned that when I have those feelings, it's a time to pray. And I didn't always know exactly what that meant, but yesterday my ex was in Arizona, and not yesterday, but the guy I was talking about yesterday, he was in Arizona and was driving, and I was in church in Washington, and I don't know what was happening that night, but we were doing something. We were having like a prayer, power, and praise night or something, and those were always powerful nights. But all of a sudden, I just, boom, like, just hit with this, like, intense weight. Like, and I remember dropping down to my knees and just covering him from the top of his head to the bottom of his toes, and I just begged God to just send whatever, angels, protection, spirit, whatever, just to cover him and protect him and guard him from whatever. And I later found out that there was like some boulder or something that like rolled off of a hill, and he ended up like, if he would have been going like the kids was a smidge faster, it would have like landed on top of his car, right? But he said he saw a light, and he braked, and it pulled him back a little bit, and he hit the boulder when it hit the ground. And I believe in those lights. I had a light myself stop me from suicide, stop me from hitting the truth. So I believe in those lights. When I see those, when I hear about people saying, this weird light popped up and I, braked or stopped or whatever, there was a light. And I believe, because when he told me, I'm like, what time did this happen? Like, what time? And he told me, and I was like, oh my God, because that's around the same time that I was having this power, praise and worship night thing. And I just was hit, like, boom, like this weight, like, hit me. And the next thing that happened after that was 9/11. And I'm a night person. I stay up all night, back to back, especially back then. I was up late. I'm always up late, but not a morning person. Never been. It's hard for me to wake up early. And that particular morning, I went to bed at 2 a.m. on the 10th or 11, and woke up at 5 a.m. It was like 4:45 when I woke up. And I'm like, why am I awake? I just went to bed, so why am I awake? And I laid there for, like 20 minutes, like, this is ridiculous. I don't know why I can't go back to sleep. And my eyes were just like wide open. I couldn't sleep. And I didn't know still at the time that I was supposed to be praying. I just knew I was awakened in that moment um, to, I didn't know at the time why. I remember turning on the news because I was like, oh, the news will make me go back to sleep. It's so boring, I'll fall back asleep. So I turned on the news and I was watching the news and watching the news and watching the news, trying to fall asleep. And around 5:45, it was like, breaking news, something hit the World Trade Center, and the World Trade Center was on fire at that point. They didn't really know that they weren't saying it was a plane, they were just saying that something hit it and it was on fire. So, again, I should have been praying. Obviously, my walk has grown with the Lord, and I'm in a different position now, but this Christmas time last year, I think it was about a year ago, or maybe earlier this year, I'll have to look at the date. This is a true story. It was pretty scary, but I was in the bathroom getting ready for work, and I think it was earlier this year, like February maybe. Yeah, February, March maybe. It might have been like November last year, I'm not sure. Within the last year. I was in the bathroom getting ready, and this incredible weight again regarding my son popped up. And I was like, ooh, Lord, no, 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 no. I don't know what that is over my son, and I don't know what I'm feeling regarding my son, but whatever it is, I pleaded the protection of every angel around my son to guard him, to protect him, to keep him safe. I told Satan where he could go and that he had no bearing and could not touch my son, that there was no harm that was going to come on my son's head from him. And I really just got nasty real and just started praying over my son. And maybe an hour later, I prayed for a while, but maybe an hour later I noticed that he had posted something on Instagram of a tree branch that had impaled the vehicle that he was sitting passenger seat in, and it, like a tree branch, came through the windshield and like pierced like down in the engine. It was like a tree fell on the car, but it like pierced into. So had my son been in anywhere a centimeter, like a little bit over, the tree branch came right through and would have hurt my son. But it didn't. Didn't hurt him. He didn't even have a scratch. He didn't even, nothing happened to him. He said he heard the snap, and then boom, the next thing they know, there's tree everywhere. I know that my prayers are working. But if I didn't know God, I can't even imagine what those situations would have, the outcome of those situations would have been. And I know that this isn't like a popular topic or something that people want to hear. But I know that God is real because of situations like these. It's not, people say, well, how do you really, really know? And I'm like, you can't see him. You can't see God. And, I thought about that. You can't see the wind either, but the wind is real. You can feel the wind, right? The same way that you can feel God. And if you don't know what that feels like, then ask him. Let me show you. I promise you he will. God is like such an amazing thing that he's going to use you in times and call on you in times to pray, to be the person that covers people. I know that if I didn't have a personal relationship with him, who's to say what would have happened to my mom, to my cousin, my ex, to my son? Who knows? who knows? I know that I'm not the only person that was wakened up the morning of 9/11. I know that, there were so many people that were awoken that had to get up and wake up that morning looking around going, well, why am I awake? Why am I here? What's going on? And the feeling of knowing that there's absolutely nothing you can do in those moments but pray is sometimes hard. It's really hard to know the only thing I can do in this moment is pray. I'm powerless. But the power of prayer is something that is so incredibly strong that there is no answer. I can't even tell you how amazing it feels to know that you were covering a particular person in that very moment that some crazy situation was going on in their world. And it makes me think about all the prayers that my grandma prayed over me, or that my aunts and church people have prayed over me over the years. How many times have their prayers interceded in my day-to-day activities that maybe I didn't even know about? Who's to say? I don't know. I'll never know. But I know that these are reasons why I know he's real. He's made himself like very, 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 very real to me. There's another, other incidents where I've asked God, like, show me you, show me who you are, show me your heart, show me whatever. I need to know that you're real, that what I'm doing, there's a reason for this. So for me to stand out and look crazy in front of all of Facebook and everywhere else. And honestly, I don't really care if it makes me look crazy. I'll be that crazy. I've always looked crazy. That's true. I've always looked crazy, but I know for me that these are all situations. So the other cool thing I found was my ex. There's always been a huge calling on him, and he has a lot of purpose that's untapped and things he hasn't really touched into, and I know that he's struggled in his personal day-to-day because he isn't walking the walk he's supposed to walk. And that's the thing. I mean, even for me, when my life is like super crazy, I have to go back to what God told me to do. What was it that I was supposed to be doing? Because if I don't know who I am or what my purpose is, then my life is just going to just kind of flail along and not really have any direction or have a purpose or a point, right? You're just kind of taking one foot in front of the other and stalling your life. You're not really actively doing anything. You're just existing. And I'm not here to exist. I don't know about you, but I am not here to exist. My ex is not here to exist either. There's a purpose and a plan for his life. So, a million years ago, when we were living in Arizona, it was probably like 15 years ago, I was attending this church in North Scottsdale, and they were changing the carpet in this building, and said, if there's anybody in your world that you want to pray for and you want to see come to Christ, get a pen and write their name on the cement, because they had just redone all the cement, so they had us write the names of people we believe and were praying for them to know Christ. And we wrote their names on with these big like Sharpie markers on the cement floor. And so I got my list of names, and I wrote all my kids, I wrote my ex, I wrote his mom, I wrote my mom, I wrote my dad, and I think my siblings. And then, over the course of the week, they laid the carpet down on top of those names that were handwritten on the floor. And I had forgotten all about that for years and years and years. And about a year ago, I was reminded of that act, that I did that. And I was talking to my ex, and I said, all these years ago, like 15 years ago, I wrote your name on the floor of that church before they laid the carpet down. So unless that carpet, even if they take the carpet up, the names are still written on the cement, right? It's still there. And they were praying and believing. He said, we're going to continue praying over every name that's written on this floor, that they will come to know Christ. And almost every single one of those names that I've written has come to know Christ. Because I believe, because they believe a seed was planted, right? That was me planting a seed for them in their life. And I remember my ex starting to cry because, he's like, you did that for me? Like, we weren't even in a good place at that time, but you did that for me. And it's like, it doesn't matter how much I don't like you at times. I still want you to know Jesus. I still want you to know him the way that I know him, because I know that he's going to make your life better. If you try it, if you ask. I don't know anybody that's given their life to Christ for a whole year, a 365-day year, and not come to intimately know Jesus. I mean, what's the worst that could happen if you waste 365 days of your life getting to know him? Maybe after that time you're like, yep, nope, I don't want to be a Christian. Cool, don't be a Christian. But I don't really know anybody that doesn't. Everybody that tries it finds peace and finds joy and finds things in their life that's worth getting to know him more and more and more and more and more and more. And so that's just my spiel for today. Those are my reasons why I enjoy being used by him, because I know that there's a purpose. But that's all I got for you today. Tomorrow I have more, but yeah, I'm trying to avoid this week because I'm coming to an end, and so it's getting sad because I've almost completed a full month of testimony of crazies in my life. But yeah, there you go. So love you guys, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.